Spider-Man Brand New Day is the newest iteration in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Tom Holland's Spider-Man franchise. It is the fourth film in the most recent Spider-Man series, taking place after the events of Spider-Man No Way Home, in which Peter makes Doctor Strange cast a spell for everyone to forget who he is, including his closest friend Ned and his girlfriend MJ. This film follows Peter a few years after those events as he begins noticing changes about himself and becoming a bit more Spider-like. And at the same time, a new villain emerges that is able to seemingly hop her consciousness from body to body. Now, I was very interested in this movie from the get-go because I really enjoyed Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Spider-Man is my favorite superhero, and this is the first film in the series that is not directed by John Watts. Instead, it is directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who you will remember as the director of Shang-Chi a few years ago. I like John Watts' films, but I was ready for a new filmmaker to sort of step into the scene and see what their vision of Spider-Man was going to be. Plus, I was a big fan of Shang-Chi whenever it came out back in 2021. He is also directing the upcoming Avengers Secret Wars next year. So I was very interested to see what he had to say with this iteration of Spider-Man, who is completely cut off from everyone he's ever known and loved. And right off the bat, you can see his influence oozing on the screen. Between the action set pieces, the more mature themes that they're exploring in this film, and just generally how it's shot a little bit darker, I thought that this was a really good progression of Peter Parker as a character. In this film, he's undergoing a lot of change, both personally and physically. His body is literally making him more spider-like, and that's not a spoiler. It's in the trailer leading up to this film. But he is undergoing an evolution as a man as well. Peter Parker is no longer in high school, and he's been going around the world the last few years completely alone, and he's starting to go through what anyone would whenever they have been alone for that set of time. He's having to tackle with the fact that he can't go through these changes all by himself, and he might actually need a little bit of help, which is part of why I think having as many supporting characters in this movie actually works here. We've seen with other Spider-Man movies whenever they pack in the ensemble to the point where it's just too much, and here they could have easily had too many characters, but I think they stuck the landing. You know, the Hulk, as you know from the trailers, is in this movie as well. You know, Bruce Banner is in the movie, and at the same time, John Bernthal's Punisher plays a very prominent role in this movie, and they introduced some new characters, but I felt like it was really well done, and it sort of played to the theme of Peter, you can't do everything alone. In fact, one of my favorite quotes from this movie is an interaction between Bruce Banner and Peter, except Bruce doesn't know he's Peter, there's no history there. And the context of it is Peter wants to repress the changes that his body is undergoing. He wants to be able to control his powers the way that he always has. He wants things to remain the same, except nature is forcing him to evolve. So he's looking for a way to repress these powers, and Bruce Banner tells him, what if you're repressing something that needs to be expressed? And I just thought that was a really good line of dialogue here that isn't only prominent in this movie, or isn't only relevant to this movie, I should say. I think that that's a good lesson to anybody that's going through a change, whether you're around Spider-Man's age in this film, I think it's supposed to be like 22, 23, or you're going through a change in life. I think that that's a good thing of like, you shouldn't, just because there's a change, doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, and maybe you need to lean into that change and you need to evolve, much like Peter Parker as a man and Spider-Man as a superhero in this movie. And I thought that is like a really mature theme, and it's very different than what they tackle in the other three Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, and I thought it made sense for where someone in this age bracket would be. You know, he's no longer a teenager, and he can't stay the same forever. So I really enjoyed the mature themes that Destin Daniel Cretton was able to tackle here as the director. As far as performances go, I think that this is Tom Holland's best performance as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He's given a lot more to do in this movie. He has plenty of emotional scenes. He has scenes where he has to be, you know, very convincingly tough and menacing, but he still has that lighthearted nature that Spider-Man is supposed to have, and that's that's why I really like Tom Holland in this role. You know, in the past, he was like the teenager that Spider-Man is supposed to be, but now he is progressing the character forward in a way that makes sense, and it isn't a complete 180. We're seeing actual development from this character, and Tom does a great job of doing that. I mentioned a bunch of the supporting performers already, but I just gotta say for the record that I loved John Bernthal and Tom Holland's dynamic in this movie. I know that they've worked together a lot, and you can see that chemistry on the screen. It's like an older brother, younger brother dynamic that I really bought into for this movie in the context of Spider-Man and the Punisher. Sadie Sink is new to this franchise here. She's a new member of the cast, I guess, and I'm not going to spoil who she plays, but I thought that she was very good in this movie. I might get some flack here. I didn't love her role quite as much as I would have liked to. I still think that she was good in the movie. I think it had more to do with what the character is supposed to be in here versus her performance, because she, I think, was the best actress on Stranger Things, quite frankly. But I did get a good sense of the grief that this character is going through. She is very, very focused throughout the film, and I'm excited to see where they take her next, and I think that she's a great addition. I also love to see the additions of Liza Colon-Zayas from The Bear and Tremel Tillman from Severance. They played good supporting roles here that helped move the plot forward. I loved Zendaya in this film too. She has a really hard job because, you know, MJ isn't supposed to remember Peter or, you know, the fact that he's Spider-Man. And during these interactions, I thought that she did a really good job of, you know, adding to the chemistry there between her and Spider-Man or Peter, without the baggage of, oh, I used to date this person. And then obviously Zendaya and Tom Holland have great chemistry. They're literally married. But it never got to the point where I was like, oh, she wants to be with Peter, or she wants to be with Spider-Man, or maybe she remembers, you know? It's like, there was like a wall there, but from like before the two dated, even in Homecoming, that I thought that she did a good job of expressing, but in the context of like a 22, 23-year-old. But at the same time, she leaves enough room there for you to hope that maybe something will click in her head. Really well done by Zendaya. And then Jacob Batalon, I love him in these films. I think that he's such a good supporting character as Ned Leeds, the guy in the chair, and I thought that he was great in this movie as well. Fantastic comedic relief. This also has some of the best action sequences in the 4 Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland that have been released. And that's no surprise, as Destin Daniel Cretton released Shang-Chi that had amazing action sequences. There are a couple of scenes in this film, or I guess primarily one that includes the hand, which kind of like uses some of the elements that he had previously dove into with Shang-Chi, and I thought that that was super well done, and it was kind of cool seeing Spidey in those sort of action sequences. But then also we get a good one with the Scorpion. We have plenty with the prominent villain, and it left me very hopeful for the action sequences that we are going to see in Avengers Secret Wars next year. I've said it already in this review, but it really feels like with this film that the franchise is maturing with Spidey, and they are understanding the character more and more and more with each iteration. There is a particular shot in this film where a kid is given the like this thing to Peter Parker, who isn't suited up, and Peter just kind of smiles, looks up, and gives him a little, that thing as well, the Spidey hand signal. To me, that just is Spider-Man, and it's hard to describe, but that is such a Spider-Man scene and such a Peter Parker thing to do. I love where they're going with this character, and I hope that they keep making more of them. I think that they will. They should. It's making a ton of money, and they're good, but I just love seeing them understand Spider-Man more and more as the franchise evolves. Really, the only issues that I have with this movie have to do with its pacing, because, like I said, they're trying to do a lot with this film, and I think at the end, it all sticks very well, and I love how this movie ends, by the way. But the pacing throughout the movie, like, just something about it didn't feel like quite as natural as I would have liked it, or, something huge would happen for Spider-Man, but then the next scene is involving Peter with like MJ or Ned. It didn't quite flow as much as I would have liked. So this movie isn't a 5 out of 5 for me. I rated it on Letterboxd as a 4 out of 5. That could go up to a 4.5, but a 4 feels about good enough right now. I really enjoyed this movie. I recommend that you go see it if you're one of the few people that haven't already. It's made so much money in its opening weekend, and it left me really excited to see where they go next for Spider-Man. Hopefully we don't have to wait another 5 years for the next movie. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. What were your thoughts on Spider-Man Brand New Day? See you next time. Bye.